Good morning, everybody. This is Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty. And to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I wanted to get started on the stats and let everybody know kind of what's going on. The last 2 weeks were kind of a 2-week end of the month. And that's because, of the 4th of July and everything like that. So when we talked about that, there were quite higher numbers that were coming into play. And now we're back into the normal, which is what I had suspected. And that's what happened. So like last week, there were 957 homes. And this week it was 756. So that's normal for an end of the month. The surprising thing was the week before, which was the Friday before the 4th, basically, it wasn't the Friday before the 4th. Yeah, it was the Friday. It wasn't the Friday before the 4th. It was the week before the 4th. And basically those numbers came in higher as well, because the end of the month was like, I think it was like June 27th was that date. And so there were a lot of people that kind of made their end of the month early so they could take time off for the 4th. That's what it was. So basically, looking at it, the median price this week of single family homes went down to $394,878, and that's the first time that we've had something that's kind of an odd number. And when we're looking at this, it's the median price. So the median price actually, you line them all up, and the one that ends up actually in the middle, and that's why it's an oddball price. Somebody did that on their property, which usually people don't do that. So $394,878. So basically $395 is what it was, down from $425 the week before. So when we're looking at these, week over week, it's kind of a range. So I am not concerned about that at all, because we were at that, about 6 weeks ago. And so we'll just kind of keep our eye on it and see if something is going to, happen with it. One of the main things that I noticed this week that I thought was kind of on the strange side is the over 1 million condos. There haven't been any sales for the last 4 weeks. There's only 40 of them on the market, so not a big amount. But basically, when you're looking at that, it's, you go, wow, there's none selling. So when you're trying to figure out the months of inventory, it's kind of tough to figure out because there aren't any of them that are selling. And then, but the last time that there was a week that they did sell, there were 2 of them that sold. So when we're looking at that, so if we have 2 that sold in the last 4 weeks, we could actually calculate the months of inventory from there. So I'm not going to do that in my head, and probably not important for the big scheme of things. But basically, when we're looking at it, in regards to everything that's going on, that single family homes by price point under 250, there's only 2.96 months of inventory. So that's still a seller's market. And 250 to 300, 2.82, which is the highest, the lowest amount of inventory in the single family homes. Then 300 to 400 goes to 4.10, 400 to 500 goes to 4.62, 500 to 1 million goes to 5.08. And then 1 million plus goes to 6.69. So everything's kind of relative in regards to what's happening and all of that kind of good stuff. When we're breaking it down, how many sold in each price point, under 250, there were 64, 250 to 300, 108, 300 to 400, 216, 400 to 500, 136, 500 to 1 million, 190, and then 42 over 1 million. When you come to the condos, there were 66 under 250, 29 between 250 and 300, 62 between 3 and 4, 11 between 4 and 5, 9 between 500 and 1 million, and like I said, none over 1 million. So when you're looking at that median price of the condos, you can see that it doesn't have a lot on the upper end. And so that obviously works into it and all of that kind of good stuff too. So basically, when you're looking at it, that gives us a really good idea that the market is extremely stable. If you're a seller, they're selling at the single family homes are selling at 98% of asking. The condos are selling at 97, and that is the final list price that we're talking about. So my stats don't allow me, without going into a line by line item, to figure out where they started and where they are now, which would be an interesting thing to look at. But basically, from where they're priced, that's kind of what the scoop is. So I know that, sellers, they want to go way above what their house is worth a lot of times. And that only hurts you in the market. And so I just want to, I kind of say that a lot, unfortunately, but it really does make a difference, how you price your home and everything. And we've done a whole study on it that I can get to you if that's something that's of interest to you. But basically, when it comes down to it, the market is what the market is, and all we can do is operate optimally within it. And that's what we do every day of our life, is figuring out how to operate optimally within it, how to get that seller what they want. Maybe you want your house to sell fast. The interesting thing is about selling it fast, you're still going to get market value. And that's, I think, probably one of the things that people find the hardest to believe, because they think, hey, if I put, a lot of people say, well, it doesn't matter, I'm not in a hurry, all of that kind of thing. But, when it comes down to it, you should really be intentional in regards to what you're doing. And who really wants to have your home in show ready condition, people showing up anytime and all of that kind of thing? I mean, we've got ways to resolve all of that if you don't want to do that. But basically, when it comes down to it, you want to have it so that you're in the driver's seat and you're doing what you want to do. That dream of somebody coming in and way overpaying for that property is not a reality situation in regards to what happens. And so it comes down to really being right on the price. And that is the most critical thing that I can say in regards to with working with us. It's being right on the price, and then our marketing kicks in, and with our marketing in addition to the price, that makes all the difference in the world in regards to what's going to happen with that particular property. And that's what I'm interested in, is making sure that all of those things happen, that we really that we find out, what that sweet spot is, and we make it happen so that it is the best situation for everybody. If you could go ahead and wave a magic wand and say, I want to sell my house on this day for this price, you can, if you're reasonable, you can probably do that. There are so many opportunities out there today in regards to options, in regards to what you can do in moving that house and selling that house. And I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. I talk about them quite often. But there are situations where you can take the equity out of your house and buy a new house without having two payments, without owning two homes. There are definitely cash offers out there that give you market value on your home. So that's something that is out there. And with that new legislation that just went into effect last Saturday, a week ago, basically is, that was posed when the inventory was really low and all of that kind of thing. But what it talks about is that the institutional investors, can't own more than 250 homes or something like that. So that's if they're buying and holding. So the companies that we work with, they're buying and flipping, but in their flipping, they're just taking their fee. It's like a commission, kind of thing is what they're doing. And then they're putting all the rest of the money into your pocket. So there's really a lot of great options out there. That's only two, and there's probably 10 that I could talk to you about. But we're out of time for this segment. And I just want everybody to know that there are options, there are things that you can do. And even though the market is really stable, if you bought your house in the last, you know, 4 or 5 years now, probably after COVID, probably after 2022, the market has stayed pretty similar to what it was then. So you're not going to get a lot of money out of your house, but we can figure out ways to make things happen that's best for you. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we will see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. This is Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty. And to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So one of the things that I saw this week was an article about trees. And basically, this, contributes to the curb appeal. It contributes to a mature neighborhood and everything. And depending on how that all works, I mean, it definitely makes people feel good, right? So it's like as you're driving into a neighborhood, probably the biggest thing that people complain about sometimes or think that goes on in the new neighborhoods, the new builder neighborhoods, is that there's not enough trees because they're not mature yet. But in our Florida weather, the trees mature very quickly and they grow very quickly and everything like that. But when there is something to be said about when you drive in and the curb appeal of certain trees and all of that kind of stuff. Now, basically, the bottom line is, however, is that maintaining those trees is probably one of the most important things that has to be done, that making sure that they're pruned and that they don't have disease and all of that kind of stuff. But, in our area, with having the shade and everything like that is something that people appreciate. And the thing that you've also got to watch out for is that you've got to watch out that the roots are not doing anything to, muck up the foundations or muck up the sidewalks or anything like that, which they tend to do. And so when it comes down to it, I think that trees do make a big difference when it comes to a specific neighborhood and seeing if they're, if it has a certain feel. Now, this particular article said a ridiculous amount that it adds to the value. And I don't think that the trees are what adds the value. I think that the overall feel of the neighborhood and everything is what adds to the value. And so the trees are just all part of that. But when you think of the word tree, that's just like a singular little tree out there that you're like, okay, well, no big deal. But when you're talking about trees, then that gives you much more of a lush feel in regards to what's going on. So basically, I know that, as the neighborhoods evolve and all of that kind of stuff, you look back and you think, gosh, I didn't think the tree would be that big. I've got some palm trees myself that are quite tall, and I didn't think they would be that tall as they are today, but they certainly are. And then a lot of the oak trees, man, they grow very big if they're not pruned. And so just keeping a handle on that and all of that kind of stuff, really makes a big difference. Some trees seem like they're smaller growers. Some like the crepe myrtles, they seem like they stay pretty small size. They don't get really big and majestic and everything like that, but a few of them around the yard can add to the flowering and all of that kind of stuff in the summer that makes it look really nice. So, trees are important, and I think that it's something that shows a mature neighborhood, and it's something that people desire. So when you're looking at it, you've just got to look at all of the situations to see what the best deal is for you and what you want it to be. But you want that curb appeal to be the thing that makes a difference. The next thing that I saw was really the walkability of neighborhoods is something that people really crave. And most Americans consider sidewalks, nearby amenities, and other walkable features important when choosing where to live. And nearly two-thirds say they would pay more for them. So I think that really one of the things that I think is important is the sidewalks. So even if your neighborhood is, everybody drives to it and all of that kind of good stuff, having sidewalks makes a big difference. I go to a lot of neighborhoods that don't have sidewalks, and I think it just, it's like when you're in there, it doesn't feel as wealthy as the ones that do. And so, and usually when you have sidewalks, you have people that do walk, and whether they're walking their dogs or whether they're, exercising and that kind of thing, it really does make a difference in regards to the feel of the neighborhood. And 89% of the people say sidewalks and places to walk are important when deciding where to live. Now, I know a lot of communities also have walking paths, so that's important as well. And 82% saying being able within an easy walk of shops and parks is important where deciding where to live. So that's another big thing to notice. 74% saying have a place to walk or exercise a pet is important. 71% say the places they need to go are too far away to walk. And weather cited by 41% and traffic safety concerns cited by 39% are the other major barriers to walking. So nearly two-thirds of the respondents, 63%, said they would be willing to pay more to live in a community where they could easily walk to parks, shops, and restaurants. When given a choice between a larger home site that requires more driving and a smaller lot in a walkable neighborhood, 59% prefer the walkable option. So community designs can help reduce driving. Nearly half of the respondents, 46%, said it would be a high priority for local governments to make it easier to develop communities where people do not have to drive long distances to work or shop. Another 39% said it would be a middle priority, while only 15% consider community design that reduces a long drive a low priority. And then, but people, 63% say a small lot single-family homes are a good idea for their communities, and 51% support townhouses, duplexes, and other attached housing options. So basically, when it comes down to it, everybody's a little bit different in what they're looking for and all of that kind of thing. But when you're out there shopping, these are all things that I think subconsciously, just kind of sink in. It's like when you're looking at it, you're like, I like that neighborhood. I'm not exactly sure why. And then you go to another one that maybe doesn't have sidewalks and you're like, oh, this just doesn't feel as nice. And you don't know why. They don't have curbs. They don't have sidewalks. And so, people are walking in the street, which really isn't an issue because the traffic isn't that bad, but it just definitely, feels different is basically what it is. So that's where it all comes down to. And I think that a lot of these homeowners associations, they all have parks for that reason, for people to walk to be able to, sometimes take your pets. Sometimes the pets are banned from the parks. But a lot of them have dog parks exactly for that purpose and that kind of thing too. So I think that it comes down to that when, probably in our urban sprawl, there's not as many places to walk to in regards to always being in a downtown area where you can walk to restaurants and those kinds of things. I mean, it depends on how far you want to walk and where you're at, obviously. But in downtown areas and that kind of stuff, you're going to find that more able to do that, or in the planned communities that they have those things included, whether that's like Baldwin Park. Winter Park is a big one like that. Winter Gardens got some downtown stuff. Celebration, all of those kinds of areas that have walking places that you can walk to. And like Celebration, they've got 10 miles of of walking trails that you can just go through that kind of go through the woods and around the lakes and all of that kind of good stuff. So there's a lot of opportunities and that kind of thing out there for those areas. Avalon Park is another area. Lake Nona, to a certain extent, has got some of that, but most of the stuff is on Narcoossee that you would drive to, or, there's a few things actually on Lake Nona Boulevard, but, there's a lot of different areas around town, and maybe you're not looking to walk to a lot of places, but just a couple places are in the mix there. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. This is Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I was interested in sharing with you today the Hometown Heroes funding that actually is just refunded. So the 25-26 funding it just lasted 6 months, and that was it. It ran out fast. It helped more than 3,000 families become homeowners, with the most recent cycle opening up August 18th. With $50 million as a part of a broader $435 million appropriation from the Florida legislature. That's why it's been dead air for buyers since earlier this year. But the 2026 program launched Monday, July 13th at 10 o'clock with $50 million in funding. First come, first served. So basically, it's only been in effect for 6 days. So Florida Housing expects this round to last roughly 7 to 8 months, though eligibility being limited to frontline workers, meaning the money can draw down faster than expected in high demand stretches. Months can become weeks. So the numbers are that 5% of the loan amount, which is a minimum of $10,000 up to $35,000, is the amount that you can get. It is a zero interest deferred second mortgage, no monthly payments. Eligibility is based on where you work, not your job title. So if you work for the police station, even if you're not a policeman, you qualify. The number one person, it has no 1% origination fee. Plus doc stamps and intangible tax exemptions at closing, so there's no fees on this loan. It can cover the down payment, closing costs, prepaid taxes, insurance escrows, upfront, mortgage insurance, or principal reduction. Repayment triggers on sale, refinance, or moving out. It's a loan, not a grant. Nothing is forgiven. So who qualifies? More than 50 occupations across healthcare, education, law enforcement, fire services, military, childcare, and other essential community roles. Income limit is 150% of the area median income for purchase of that county, and that varies. So basically, we can look at the specific counties and see what it is for that. And basically, a reservation isn't something buyers make themselves. The lender reserves funds once there's an executed contract and a complete file. So pre-approval and homebuyer education need to happen before the house hunting, not after. So basically, if you're looking for a class so that you qualify for this, then definitely would want to help you with that. And so basically that's kind of what the scoop is. So it's got $50 million for the 26-27 fiscal year. And so basically the money can go really quick when it comes to this. So it's the program. It's been in existence, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years now. It's for Hometown Heroes, and basically allows you to get an interest-free loan that gets paid back when you sell the house, you refinance, or you move out. And basically, it can cover your down payment, it can cover closing costs, a lot of those kinds of things. So if you qualify for that, I would say now is the time to consider that and to do it before it runs out. Like they said, it ran out about 6 months early last time. They're hoping that this last 7 to 8 months and just the last 4 months of the year won't be there won't be any money left. But basically, 10 to 35,000 interest free, no payments, no stamps on the mortgage or anything like that. So it's really a great deal for those that qualify, and really for the way for the state to give back to all of those essential people that are the hometown heroes that are helping everybody out there. And like I said, there's more than 50 education or 50 jobs or whatever that qualify for it, and it's who you work for, not the job that you do. And so I think that that's pretty interesting out there. It just started 5 days ago, so time to get things rocking and rolling on that. So in addition to the Hometown Heroes, there's another program that was refunded, and that's called the My Safe Florida Home Program. And so there's an unused balance from last year's budget. It's rolling into 26-27. It was $378 million for the home program and $27 million for the condo version, effective July 1st, 2026. So that's what's left. So basically what it is it's a state-funded hurricane hardening grant. So basically you can get a free wind mitigation inspection, then a matching grant for storm upgrades like impact windows, hurricane shutters, and roof reinforcements. So the state pays you $2 for every dollar you spend, up to a $10,000 state contribution. So a $5,000 homeowner spend gets matched at $15,000 total project. Low-income homeowners get up to $10,000 with no match required at all. So who qualifies are single-family, site-built primary residents with homestead exemption, no condos, mobile homes, rentals, or second homes. The home has to be built before January 1st, 2008. The insured value is $700,000 or less. It was at $500,000, so it went up a little bit. You have to have active homeowners insurance, and the income is capped at 120% of a county median income. This cycle is restricted to low and moderate income homeowners only. Unlike earlier years, it was open to everyone. So basically how it happens and how you get this is that, first of all, you want to get the free inspection. So you would request a wind mitigation inspection through mysafefloridahome.com. So that's mysafeflhome.com. A state licensed inspector comes out and identifies which hurricane hardening upgrades your home needs and qualifies for. Impact windows, doors and reinforcement, garage doors, etc. That's part of that. This part is free regardless of income. So if you got a free wind mitigation inspection, that's probably going to save you around $400 at least on your homeowner's insurance for the next 4 years. So I would suggest that everybody does that. So again, that is mysafeflhome.com. Step 2, you have to complete the required questionnaire. So it's basically a lot of people miss this. Over 30,000 applicants skipped it and lost eligibility even after completing their inspection. Doing the inspection alone does not keep your application active. You have to submit the follow-up questionnaire too. And then you have to wait for your priority window to open. Applications released in staggered phases by income and age. Low income senior first, then low income under 60, then moderate income seniors, then moderate income under 60. Exact dates change each cycle, so you'll have to look on your email and portal to see what the scoop is on that. So you want to have contractor quotes ready before your window opens, using the waiting period to line up contractors and get cost estimates in hand. Basically, you'll need them the moment your window opens, so don't wait until and to start shopping. And then you want to submit the two-stage grant application. This requires your chosen contractor's name and license number, plus project details and cost estimates. And basically, so you'd want to obviously verify the contractor's license at myfloridalicense.com before submitting anything to make sure that they are licensed. And then step 6 is award and reimbursement. Grant approval usually takes 2 to 4 weeks after submission. And basically, pre-approval work is not reimbursable. The award letter is the go signal. If somebody starts construction before they're approved, they forfeit the match. So basically, free inspection now, questionnaire right after. Get your contractor quotes lined up, and then the second your window opens, then that's the time to get funded. So basically, it's a great program. And again, this is called the My Safe Florida Home Program, and the domain name that you go to again is to get your free inspection is mysafeflhome.com. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. This is Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I was looking again at what are the home improvements that people can do to get more money for their home. And interesting that the most important things for people to improve are probably the things that they don't think about. And the one thing to keep in mind, regardless of what you do to improve your home, is that over improving beyond the neighborhood's comps supports a ceiling. You're not going to get above that. Buyers are not going to pay above the neighborhood's price range, no matter how nice the renovation is. So you need to match the work to the block, not to your own taste. And I think this is probably one of the hardest things for sellers to understand, because they think that if they go ahead and, like you put $100,000, say, into a kitchen, that's going to increase the price of the house by $100,000. Or, I was looking at a house. Had the buyer, and we were looking at a house, and the seller was there, and they had put $80,000 into the condo. It was a condo, and they're like, "We just want to get that $80,000 out." And unfortunately, they're not going to get that $80,000 out. They put in very nice tile backsplash in the kitchen. It looks like it's bamboo, and it actually has, it's like bamboo sticks, and it actually has like bamboo sticks like all next to each other. I mean, very classy, very nice looking and everything like that, but definitely not everybody's taste and style. And so that addition that they did, I'm sure those tiles were very expensive. They looked like they were, but again, not going to be what somebody wants. And so as a result of that, you're not going to get your money out of it. Now, one of the other things that they had done in that place is they had put on plantation shutters. And, very nice, makes you so that you go, yeah, I really want that because I like the way it looks on the windows. It's a great window treatment, looks expensive, all of that kind of thing. Other people would say, gosh, I don't like those plantation shutters because I can't get enough light in, even with the shutters open. And unless I open them all up, and then that looks stupid and all of that kind of stuff. So anything that you do like that is not something that everybody's going to want to go along with. They're just not. You would think that they were, but they definitely aren't. And so basically when it comes down to it, and the things that make the most bang for the buck is what they're saying number one is garage door replacement. So that's number one for 2 years running. It costs around $4,300, and it adds about $8,300 to $1,250 in value. Again, depending on the source. Now, I have a really hard time because somebody tells me that they've got a new garage door. I'm not thinking that it's going to add $8,300 to $12,500 to the value of their home. But if their garage door has dings in it and stuff like that, or you've got it's like it that you can tell that it's got some damage to it, and people pull up and they see that damaged garage door. That's a definite turnoff. So it could cost you more than $10,000, because it could cost you that they don't even want to see the home because they feel like there's too much damage done to it. So I think that that's really where the garage door replacement comes in. And so they're saying that that costs around $4,300 and $8,300 to $12,500 in regards to the value. Now, I would be really interested to see how they come up with this stuff, because like I said, you can't improve above the neighborhood. So it would be really interesting to see. Second on the list is steel entry door replacement, around $2,400, and it returns over 200%. So buyers make an emotional read on your home in the first few seconds, and the front door sets the tone. Do agree with that the front door sets the tone. So at a minimum, it has to be pristine, it has to be repainted, it has to be in great condition. And if it's got rust around it, again, people are going to be like, not my favorite, and all of that kind of stuff. And they just see the dollar sign start to go up before they even get in your house. And so from that standpoint, I can see where it would, increase the value. $2,400 just for a front door sounds expensive, but I haven't priced them recently, so that kind of makes sense, I guess, too. The next one, roughly, I think is interesting too. It's all on the outside are the major ROI things, which is return on investment. And that is manufactured stone veneer. It says that's roughly 150 to 200% ROI, depending on the report. But it varies by region and needs to match the home architecture, or it looks bolted on or whatever. But I do know that people like to have those homes that look different with that stone veneer and everything. And they've made it, so nice and easy and everything like that in regards to doing it. And so I'm sure that it does make a difference. I'm working with a buyer right now that's looking at a new home construction, and he thinks, which I agree, that the home looks a little boxy and kind of not that great when you're looking at it, just in general. But with the elevations, they've got 3 elevations. One of them, which is the front of the house, how it's going to look. One of them doesn't have anything on it, looks really boxy and plain. The second one has stone, and the third one has stone too, but it's in a different place. So basically, what the builders have found, and the difference is basically that, the one is $5,000 more and the other one's $10,000 more, depending on what you pick. The other one had another window in the front too, that I think is a window in the primary closet, which, some people like those windows in the closet and some people really don't care or whatever. So that's another thing in regards to doing it. But the main things that are going to be a return on your investment for getting your house sold, it says, are all these outdoor things, right? And a minor kitchen remodels return 96 to 113%, which just means cabinet refacing, painting, new hardware, countertop swap, updated fixtures, no layout or plumbing changes, and that's around $28,000, and it can return about $30,000. Compare that to a major kitchen job, which only recovers about 40 to 50% of what you spend. Same story on bathrooms. Mid-range remodel returns about 80%, upscale only about 42%. And so basically, when it comes down to it, you definitely have to look at, if you're remodeling for yourself, I say go at it. Do whatever you want. You want to live the way that you want to live, and that's awesome. But if you're remodeling to sell, you need to look at it from the buyer's eyes and not from your eyes in regards to what you're going to do. And like I was telling you about those people that spent $80,000 in getting their home, they got their home ready for them. Well, they were planning on living there, but now they've decided to move to Texas to be closer to their children. And so as a result of that, it's like, it's hard to get that money out. And so I think it's really important that you look at your long-term opportunities in regards to what you're going to do. Again, if you're doing it for you, do whatever you want to. But if you're doing it to sell, make sure you don't over improve, because you're going to be limited by the comps of the other houses that are the same size. And even though they're not the same, the appraisers and the banks and the people are all going to look at it that way. So you got to be careful about that. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com. And we'll see you next week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye-bye.